You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, GH fans. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt. And as we get ready for the very sad 2-day tribute to Bobbie Spencer and actress Jackie Zeman, I want to take a quick look back at Bobbie's saddest storylines on General Hospital. You've been seeing some flashbacks of some of these. I expect we're going to have more over the next few days. But before we dive into our countdown, please do click subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. All right, now let's jump right into our own little tribute to some of the amazing storylines that Jackie Zeman had over the 4+ decades that she played beloved nurse Bobbie Spencer. We're looking at 5 most tragic storylines, counting down 5, 4, 3, 2 to get to number 1, the saddest of all the storylines. Number 5, Carly messing with Bobbie for revenge, because this crushed Bobbie and she didn't understand why it was happening to start with. If you remember, we just kind of heard Carly Corinthos mentioning this when she was telling Drew Kane about her mom Bobbie's forgiving nature. She said she did some truly awful things to her mom, and that's 100% true. Looking back at the individual acts of revenge and betrayal, it's really hard to see how Bobbie could let it all slide for her daughter's sake, but she did. Carly first turned up in Port Charles in 1996 when Sarah Joy Brown originated the role, and she came to town with a chip on her shoulder and an appetite for revenge. And if you don't recall, Bobbie was a teenage prostitute many years before she was a well-respected nurse. She got pregnant and gave baby Carly up for adoption at age 16. So then as an adult, Carly came looking for her. Bobbie caught Carly in bed with her husband, Tony Jones, not long after the couple had befriended the Port Charles newcomer, and that just devastated Bobbie. Then when Carly was pregnant, she said it was Tony's child, and, that was at the time Bobbie then found out that Carly was really her daughter and had done all this stuff to her. It was a gut punch that just sent Bobbie for a loop, because she had always had all this guilt over giving up that baby for adoption, and then that baby comes back to haunt her. But of course, Bobbie forgave Carly, but it was all just very sad, very soapy, very messy, because Carly kind of dragged her mom to a dark place there for a while. All right, the number 4 thing is Carly Corinthos' death in 2002. Of course, not dead, but she was thought dead, and it was very sad for Bobbie. After Carly and Bobbie put their messy past behind them, they rebuilt their mother-daughter relationship on General Hospital. It was honestly a beautiful thing to say. Bobbie really enjoyed being a grandma to Michael Corinthos, and things were going really well for them. But, soap operas never let people stay happy for too long. And, Carly had caused Bobbie pain so many times, often because of her schemes that Bobbie supported. One such scheme was Carly deciding she wanted Bobbie's boyfriend, Roy DeLuca, to help turn Sonny into the cops so he could get out of the mob and into witness protection. It didn't work out, and Bobbie took Carly's side over Roy's, even though it broke Bobbie's heart. And not long after, there was even more heartache for Bobbie when her firstborn, Carly Corinthos, died after driving her car off a cliff. Of course, Carly survived. She was faking her death after she saw Sonny doing the deed with his lawyer, Alexis. But Carly's death really hit Bobbie hard. Initially, she refused to accept that her firstborn was dead and gone, but then finally they found a body that they presumed was Carly's in the harbor, and that forced Bobbie to accept it, and she mourned. She was totally distraught that Carly died, but in true Carly style, she showed up at her own memorial service, shocking everyone. And of course, again, Bobbie forgave her daughter, even though it devastated her when she thought she was dead. Number 3, Tony Jones' death. This was in 2006. This is another absolutely tragic storyline of Bobbie's, the death of her ex-husband, Tony Jones. Although they'd been apart for years, they cared about each other a lot still. They remained close as exes who betrayed each other can. They were still close. And so there was this deadly outbreak of encephalitis in Port Charles in the mid-aughts. It was highly contagious and killed many residents. And as one of the top local physicians connections. Tony Jones was front and center treating patients during the epidemic. Unfortunately, because he was treating patients with the illness, he was exposed and he got a nasty case of it. If you don't know, encephalitis is inflammation of the brain and it can be fatal. It's most often caused by a virus of some sort. Tony contracted a really, really bad case of it and he died this terrible death. At his side when he passed away was his adopted son, Lucas Jones, whom he encouraged to live his life proudly as a gay man, said he loved him. Bobbie Spencer was there. So was her brother, Luke Spencer. And Bobbie told Tony right before he died that he was part of her forever and nothing would ever take away the love she has for him. And even sadder, in his final moments, he told Bobbie that their daughter, BJ Jones, who had died years before, had come to take him home with her. It was an absolute tearjerker. And it was one of the top few saddest scenes I think we ever saw Bobbie in, as she wished Tony Godspeed right before he died. All right, the second most sad and tragic storyline of Bobbie's was Lucas Jones' near death after Helena poisoned him. So another touching moment was when Bobbie thought she was going to lose her son, Lucas Jones. It was a few years before Tony passed away. This happened in 2001. Where Tony and Bobbie had to cope with the near death of their son. Lucas got terribly sick, and it turned out Helena Cassadine had poisoned him with a biotoxin that was supposed to be fatal. In fact, Helena had Bobbie's nephew, Lucky Spencer, administer the toxin to his cousin, which was really awful. Then Helena offered Tony the cure to save Lucas if he would revive her beloved Stavros Cassadine, who'd been frozen and stored in a secret lab under General Hospital. Tony went to Luke Spencer for help, and they wound up getting the cure and shutting Helena down. But Bobbie was absolutely devastated to think that she might lose another child. And that leads us to the number one saddest storyline of Bobbie Spencer's. If you haven't figured out which storyline this is, here you go. It's the death of her daughter, BJ Jones. If you recall, Tony was BJ's dad, and she was born into his first marriage to another woman. And his wife had actually named the baby after Bobbie, Barbara Jean. And after BJ's biological mom died, Tony married Bobbie, and she adopted the little girl, and she was her whole world. But when BJ was just 7 years old, the unthinkable happened. BJ's school van was struck by a drunk driver, and their daughter suffered fatal injuries. She was brain dead after the accident. And Tony Jones decided they should donate BJ's heart to save little Maxie Jones' life. The scene where Tony laid his head on Maxie's chest to hear BJ's heart beating was one of those moments in soap history that's just incredible, and you won't forget if you ever see it. Bobbie never forgot the loss of her daughter that happened years before the soap decided to create a firstborn daughter, Carly, for her. I don't think anyone can argue that BJ's death was the saddest moment for Bobbie Spencer, and Jackie Zeman played all these sad storylines so masterfully. All right, that's it for now. Please click subscribe and have your tissues ready, because the Bobbie Spencer 2-day event starts on Wednesday, January 10th. Be sure to comment with your favorite Bobbie Spencer storyline and come back soon, because we are here talking GH every single day. And of course, this is Belinda from Soap Dirt.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.